Howdy Pisces, welcome to your June 2018 Astro Update. I'm Raina, and in June there's going to be a strong emphasis in your domestic sphere. I can never say that word sphere. Sector is an easier word for me to say. The fourth house represents your foundation. So your roots, family of origin, your mother, your current home, your current family that you've made as a grown-up. These are all part of that domestic sector. And the sun means that you may be consumed with one or more issues in this area. Now, as for your physical house, you may be moving your physical house, because what I have here is that Mercury is going into Cancer on the 12th, which means that it will be in that fourth house for the first 12 days of the month. Mercury can see contracts, and this can be with real estate. And we do have a new moon in this sector on the 13th. So that could be a new beginning that is connected to home and family. That's obviously only one possibility, but when I put it all together, it sure seems like it could be for some of you. And then Mercury goes into the fifth house on the 12th, and Mercury is going into this house that deals with love, like the falling in love stage. It deals with amusements like parties and games and things like that. And so you may be social, you may be creative. It's the creative house. There may be a lot going on in this area where you just feel mentally very free. Maybe you have gone through kind of a heavy thing with Mercury in the fourth house, where it is about the past, and you felt, I don't know, maybe kind of trapped by it. I think Pisces people tend to be haunted by their past. I don't know if any of you would agree about that, but I just feel like that isn't beyond the pale that you would be like that. And then your mind turns to more positive, or you could say just lighter subjects, like, for instance, having like parties and attending parties and just doing a lot of chit chat. And it could be with somebody that you have become interested in romantically. That's the fifth house for sure. So you might meet somebody romantically and you're really communicating with them, because Venus will be in that fifth house until the 13th. And then it goes into your sixth house, which is of health and just organizing your life, your daily schedule, and things like that. Very practical energy, but it's not very sexy. It's not very romantic. And the fifth house is sexy and romantic. So Venus in that fifth house can also bring money when it comes to creative projects that you might be selling. And then when Venus goes into and of course, it goes without saying that since Venus is the goddess of love and the fifth house is falling in love, that you may be in love with somebody and you may be talking to them as well. And at least after the 12th. And then Venus goes into that sixth house, and it could be about getting a raise. It could be about trying to beautify yourself, because the sixth house is health. And seeing the connection between how you look and whether or not you're healthy. And on that same day, there's a new moon in that fourth house of home and family, new beginnings, new seeds being planted. On the 18th, Neptune, which rules your sign and has Pisces there, Neptune is in its own sign in Pisces since 2012. Well, this is your first house. So Neptune will be kind of, removing the veil from your eyes about things connected to the first house. One of them could be about childhood memories that the first few years of life. The first house can be just coming into this realm. And if you had one particular belief about it and somebody tells you differently, then you start to question everything. So it can be very unsettling. If this is true for you, just remember that the truth shall set you free. There's nothing that you can have some sort of revelation about that, if you know it's true, cannot help you in your future. And this is one of the things that I like to kind of mention about the influence of Neptune and the sign of Pisces. I think that if I had to talk about a shadow aspect of Pisces, is the tendency to live too much in fantasy and to be afraid of the cold, stark truth of a situation because of emotional vulnerability and sensitivity. And this is simply because Pisces is very much imaginative and fantasy prone, but in a good way that can lead to a lot of artistic talent, of course. And I see Pisces being sensitive as different than Cancer, for example, because Cancers tend to, I think, take more personal offense towards something. And Pisces, it's not so much about you, it's about protecting other people. And I feel like Pisces are the ultimate at self-sacrifice. And while it is laudable, in other words, it's very impressive that there are people out here who actually put others first in this very selfish time frame or period of time, it still is the case that it never works to do that when you are giving yourself short shrift, when you're not giving enough to yourself. Yes, of course, if you feel like allowing somebody else to have first priority about something and you feel really good about it, then there is no conflict. But I'm talking about when it's just that you automatically don't honor yourself and you kind of go along with what somebody else wants to your own detriment, that I have a problem with it. And so, the more you know, remember that slogan? So that's that. And then on the solstice, the sun goes into that romance sector in the 5th house. Now, besides it's also kind of like parties. It's fun. You're going to have so much fun, probably towards the end of the month where you're just like lighthearted and having a good time. And the nice thing about the 5th house for you, Pisces, is that Cancer is a fellow water sign. So there's not this clashing. Actually with you and Gemini, it forms a square, which is a tense angle. So you should be feeling a lot more alignment with your life in the area of meeting somebody new and a new creative project and so on and so forth. And then on the 26th, we have Mars retrograding in Aquarius. So that's significant too. It will go back into Capricorn, I believe, towards the end of July, and then go direct in late August. So 2-month cycle. And so in this first it'll be in the 12th house. You have Mars in the house that your ruler, Neptune, rules. And you rule it as the sign connected to Neptune. being ruled by Neptune. So this is the house of self-undoing. Some of you may have to work on eradicating an addiction that you thought had been taken care of, and you realize it needs more work. And, this is just an aside, but sometimes you read about celebrities or you hear people that you know that go to rehab and they detox from the substance, and then they may be in for like 30 days and they have group meetings and stuff. But, it's not just about those things. You have to work on your sobriety, and it involves making different choices and really involves changing your life drastically a lot of times, because otherwise you're going to be tempted if you're in the same situations. So it really does involve more than just detoxing from something. And you may find out that there are things that you need to do to become more constructive in your behavior. The 12th house can be destructiveness that you engage in, or that a person engages in, that they might not even be aware of because it's at the subconscious level. So it's how people trip themselves up. And it could be, it's really important to know how you're doing it, but also why you're doing it. That's the ultimate, because if you don't know your own motivations, how can you stop them? And so that can be what's going on for you. And it will go back. I'm not going to talk about the transit when it goes in the 11th house. I'll save that for next month. But needless to say that you are probably going to be dealing with buried issues head on and being more assertive about it. Maybe that's a karmic issue for you, Pisces, that you tend to kind of feel disempowered in some way. And if you were to get like a past life regression, maybe you'd find that this has happened many times in the past, and you have a kind of subservient attitude and not one where you are taking charge and acting like you deserve to have the best things in life, which you do. So let me see what else is happening. Well, we do close the month with a full moon in Capricorn in that 11th house, where Mars will eventually end its retrograde cycle. So this can give us a taste for that Mars retrograde transit. And this is a full moon in Capricorn, June 28th, and the 11th house is the house of hopes and wishes. That can be a time when something comes to fruition, maybe some long-held desire is fulfilled for you, and you feel like this, maybe you're emotionally touched by it and or feel emotional in general. But it can be a time of endings. Full moons can bring endings. This would be in your social circle. Maybe you decide that you don't have enough in common with some of the people you hang out with anymore, and you're kind of going it more alone. Remember, these are just possibilities. This isn't necessarily what's going to happen. Okay, well, I think that's about it. It's so funny. I'm like really tired. I didn't get much sleep last night. I actually started to drift off while the recording was still on. And I'm like, oh, well, that's it, folks. That's all I have for you. So anyway, Pisces, if you like this type of astrological analysis, I'm promoting my natal chart interpretations. I'll link it below, which looks at personality trait analysis plus the next year worth of transits. Obviously not all of them. I'm actually looking at it in terms of trends to see like if there's any theme, if it's like in a certain area for you particularly. It could, give you hints on what the focus is going to be. But anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful June, you guys. Bye.